Alright, so this video's topic is basically something that I had on my mind today when I was out mowing the lawn. For some reason, this idea popped into my head. And I'm going to ask you guys this question too. Should there be more comic books based off of cartoons? I mean, like, of course we've seen the 6-part comic book Space Ghost, Darkwing Duck and Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers is out, Avatar: The Last Airbender is coming out soon from Dark Horse, Gargoyles had a short run in Slave Labor Graphics. I could go on and on. A lot of cartoons have had a lot of comics, but the thing is that a lot of them don't stick. And I'm really glad that, you know, Darkwing Duck, because I was afraid that thing was going to get canceled, but now I'm glad it's still going. But here's my thing, and I expressed this I expressed a little in my Space Ghost comic book review, that, you know, a lot of these cartoon characters have a lot of potential to be great comic book characters as well. I mean, you can write whole stories based around them on comics. Like, let's take, for instance, the Space Ghost comic. Like I said, this thing had a lot of potential. It showed the whole origin, and I really wish, you know, DC still picked it up and did, hey, let's do a Space Ghost ongoing, because I was really digging what they were doing. It wasn't any, like, long monologue stuff. It was kind of gritty. And I wasn't. It was gritty, but it was still total escapism, and you still felt for the character of Space Ghost, or as he's known in the comic, Thaddeus Bach. So yeah, and I really like that when comic books, you know, take the cartoon characters and, you know, and put them, you know, and extend their reach, or take them to places the animated show could have gone or couldn't have gone. Like I said in again, I'm going to refer to the Space Ghost thing. Space Ghost kills people in here, and he says damn and shit a lot. Well, he says hell and damn. I think he says shit once. But anyway. Yeah, I've always said that, why can't comic books do more cartoon stories? I mean, with cartoons, especially, you know, like old nostalgic cartoons, like I've always wanted to see Herculoids, or Thundarr the Barbarian, or Mightor. Those have been awesome. You know, I'm glad as a child, but I'm a child of the 90s. That's all nostalgia to me. Nostalgia, for me, I grew up in what I refer to as the Silver Age of cartoons, the 90s. You know, with the Batman and Superman, and Darkwing Duck, and DuckTales, and Gargoyles, and Street Sharks. Those were mine, and I've always wanted to see more comics based off of those cartoon series. I mean, I would love to see a gritty Street Sharks comic book. I would like to see a really gritty and bloody, because it's freaking humanoid sharks. Wouldn't it be cool to see them, like, bite people in half, or something like that? I cannot be the only one who's thought about this as well. So yeah, I cannot, because with comic books you can actually extend on a lot of origins, like, you know, you can do so many origin stories, like, because the thing, sometimes what suffered in the old cartoons is that you didn't really get a lot of, you know, backstory on these characters. You didn't get any of those backstories. You didn't understand what these characters are, why they're here, or why they're there. It's like let's take, for instance, Thundarr. Now, my friend, the Mount Vernon kid, he's talked a lot about he'd love to see a Thundarr the Barbarian comic book, and he's got a good point. Why? I mean, they don't really explain his origins at all. I mean, how did he get the Sun Sword? Where did it come from? How did he meet Ookla and the princess? You know, how did he meet all them? Why does he fight? You know, where did he come from? Who are his parents? You know, those questions you could probably answer in a comic book and keep it, you know, unrated. Well, yeah, but still have that feel to it, like, you know, the Darkwing Duck comic is doing. So yeah, and that's the other thing why I'm liking, you know, I can't wait for Dark Horse to finally, you know, when they're done and they get around to doing the Avatar: Last Airbender comic. You know, it's going to be the book 4 in comic book form. I really like that idea. I think it's pretty cool, because there's so many unanswered questions, and, you know, I'd really like to see some origin stories. You know, I'd like to see an origin story for Jet. You know, a story of Jet. I know he's dead, but maybe they can take their time out and go, well, here's his whole story and why he hates the Fire Nation. They didn't explain that at all. Well, they showed one little glimpse, but that was about it, and it kind of pissed me off. I'd also like to see the after effects of the Fire Nation, all that. And like I said, I cannot be the only one who's thought about, you know, more of that. Other ones is like the Gargoyles comic. Why did that get canceled? I was really liking it. I found the trades, I found the books based around it. It was good. It was everything I wanted from Gargoyles, and it was still like at like an adult rate. It still had a not I wouldn't say adult rating, but I wouldn't give it to a little kid. Yeah, it talked more about Xanatos, and he was still not on the up and up. Talked about all these different characters. So why not? Why is it so hard? Is it just hard to get the license? I don't know, or maybe people just don't want to. The fans just don't want to see what happens to the characters. Like I've talked about my Stormhawk story, and people shit on that. Now, actually, it's funny too because Tori GNR and I were actually having a conversation about. We were kind of having a conversation about this when I mentioned fan fictions, and we were talking for a brief time on that last night. And he mentioned that, people probably just hate it because it's just a fan fiction, and that's about it. Now, if it was comic book, they'd probably be more lenient to it. And I gotta give him credit because he's probably right on that basis. So he's got a point there. If it was a comic book, maybe I would for the Storm. Maybe that's why I'm begging someone to do a Stormhawks comic book. But as long as I want to write it. I want to at least write at least one story arc. Yeah. So yeah, and there's also so much when a show ends or gets canceled, there's so much stories there's so much story to characters, There's a lot you can do so much more. I mean, the show's over, you can't do much. BS. Bullshit, right? I'm calling bullshit right on that. You can easily take these characters to new heights. I mean, what would it have been like if, like, after 100 issues, Batman was just canceled? Like, we can't do no more with Batman. See what I mean? So that's the only thing. It's like, you give up after a certain number of episodes, then it's like, can't do no more. Well, I call, like I said, I call bullshit on that, because you can always do something with these characters. You can always evolve them, and you can always change them. Or you can even kill some off. I mean, no one can tell a writer, he's like, hey, you can't kill that character off, unless he's like the main character, but even then, sometimes. But yeah, I cannot be like I said before, I cannot be the only one who thinks about this stuff. Like, there has to be someone out there who's thought about more comic books based off of cartoon series, especially really good ones. I was really enjoying, like I said, Gargoyles. Really enjoyed that series, and I'm really happy for Chippendale Rescue Rangers. They got their own ongoing. I haven't been able to read it yet because I don't have a comic book shop. I'm waiting to get the first arc in trade. I've heard nothing but good things about it, though. But yeah, and like I said, you have with comic books in cartoons, you can easily make this a little. You can make the comic books if you're not basing it around. If you want to make it like an older series, like a teen series, like I'm hoping they do with Avatar: Last Airbender, you can make it a little more bloodier, because I've always said that show has the potential to have characters killed off, or intense violence. That show at some points it's like, wow, they let this get on Nickelodeon, like the death of Jet, right there, and also the death of Zhao, the technical death of Zhao, and the death of Yue. So yeah, there's potential. There's always potential. I mean, there's no way you could a comic. Maybe it's just licensing. I don't know, or maybe people just can't. Writers just can't find the right comic book to do. Cartoon to do a comic book series on. I don't know how a comic book company works all the way through, although I understand it's very cutthroat, and some things happen and some things don't. But oh well. But you guys tell me, would you guys like to see more comic books based off of cartoon series, and if so, which ones? What shows? And how would you want them rated, and how would you want them to go? You guys can comment below or video response. I'm always up to listening to your comments. And I've pretty much said my piece, so I'm out.